Hey guys, so I wanted to review this show, Wags to Riches, that came out on Netflix last month. I started watching it a month ago and I just finished because it honestly wasn't holding up the way I needed it to, but we'll get into that. It's clearly Netflix's version of Basketball Wives with like a little bit of love and hip hop thrown in there because all of the girls aren't connected to athletes, some of them are connected to rappers. Okay, so first I'm gonna give y'all my overall thoughts and review on the show, and then I'll go girl by girl. So overall, I gave the show a 6 out of 10. I said it took me forever to watch. I kept getting bored. It wasn't as entertaining or didn't have as much of an entertaining cast as Love and Hip Hop or Basketball Wives. I, I said I don't necessarily see them getting a season two, but if they do, I wouldn't be mad. But I do feel like they need to get rid of some people, which is similar to what has happened on Basketball Wives. If you look back on season one of Basketball Wives, they had some people on there named Tanya, Kimsha. They disappeared after season one because they didn't fit the show. So I think they would need to do the same thing with this show, like clean house and try to figure out who the core cast is. I said, in my opinion, the people that came off as main cast members were Sherelle, Stoney, Alexis, MJ, Jules, and that's pretty much it. Everybody else barely contributed to the show's storylines, and it wouldn't really make a difference if they stayed or went. Okay, so like I said, I'm gonna go person by person now, and I'm gonna start with the people who I feel like were least important to the show and just give my quick thoughts on them to get them out the way. No shade. Okay, so Keita, she was pregnant for most of the show from what I remember, and that's pretty much her whole storyline. She's married to Tyreek Hill, he's in the NFL, and she's pregnant with his 10th child. I believe it's her first, though. And besides that, she had a little storyline with Sade, which we'll get into, but that was pretty much it with her. Cool girl, seemed sweet, didn't get on my nerves or anything, but didn't bring anything to the show either. Now, Sade is the fiance of Robbie Chosen from the NFL. I said she comes off pretty calm and quiet, but is it an act? Because why was she doing Keita like that? So basically, in the show, it was explained that Keita was filming a show at the same time that all of the NFL wives were having this cabin together. And I guess Keita wanted to film in the cabin, and Sade was saying, no, she can't film in the cabin. Like, I don't know if she didn't want to be filmed or she was just, but it came off shady. Keita felt like Sade was being shady. Sade was like, I wasn't being shady. It was a boring storyline that didn't really go nowhere, but it definitely tried to make or portray Sade like the mean girl. But I did say I like how Sade stood up to Sherelle and basically told Sherelle that she was a mean girl and to stay out of her business. And then lastly, I said the whole season the women were asking Sade if she was pregnant. She kept denying it, but she clearly didn't want them in her business and she wanted to protect her peace. So she waited until the last episode to reveal it. Okay, Portia, she's married to Andre Berto. He's a boxer. She was also pregnant for most of the show. I said for the most part, she came off like a Sherelle sidekick slash follower. She's not as bad as Ashley, who we'll get into next, but she's up there. On the first episode, she basically said something like Sherelle is popular, and if you want to be popular, you're going to stick around Sherelle. You're going to stay on Sherelle's good side because if she says you're out, you're out. So I'm like, oh, okay, so you about to just dick ride Sherelle the whole show. And I was pretty much right. And Portia is one of the girls here who works under Sherelle because Sherelle has a real estate company. So Portia, Ashley, Miranda, and I believe Keita work for Sherelle. Okay, Ashley Wheeler, she's the wife of Philip Wheeler. I believe he's from the NFL as well. I said she's another Sherelle sidekick slash follower and very judgmental. Also one of Sherelle's agents and was judging Stoney before she ever met her. There was another time she was smiling in Jules' face and then walked away with somebody and started talking about Jules immediately after. I believe it was Ashley and Alexis who had walked away and started talking about Jules after y'all was just sitting in her face. And I said Ashley is annoying. She's just always in everybody's business in the scenes, asking questions to try to get drama started, giving me a lot of negativity. I don't like her. Alexis is the ex-wife of Amari Stoudemire from the NBA. I, I said I liked her for the most part, but as the season progressed, I started to feel like she was a little phony. Like I said, her and Ashley smiling in Jules' face and then walking away talking about her. And just in general, I felt like she acted one way when she would have one-on-ones with the girls, like Jules. But then when she got around the group, she would get on that like group think, cliquish mentality a little bit. And I didn't like that. She would just blend into the bullshit. The show did take some time to focus on her dating journey, and she did meet this guy named Jonathan. They started to get to know each other. They went on a couple dates, so that was cute. We'll see what happens with them if we do get a season two. And then now we're going to basically get into the main four, which is Sherelle, Miranda, Stoney, and Jules. For the most part, I'm going to just go person by person and just know that when I'm talking about each person, I'm talking about the season in chronological order. So Sherelle is engaged to Chad Ochocinco from the NFL, and she is being, portrayed as the Shawnee of the show. And I did see her in the credits, so she is some type of producer on the show. Overall, the impression that I get of Sherelle from the season is that she's very annoying. She thinks she's better than others, and I said she got a lot of nerve because Evelyn looks better than Sherelle, in my opinion. And you basically coming on this show doing a knockoff version of Basketball Wives, which is Evelyn's show. Like, girl, bye. From the beginning of the show, as soon as she heard about Stoney, she was judging Stoney. Now, Stoney is Rick Ross's baby mom. If you know the story back in the day, one of Rick Ross's baby moms, her tape got leaked online by 50 Cent because 50 Cent and Rick Ross had beef. Stoney was that person. So she basically said she was dating somebody after her and Rick Ross broke up. Her and that guy broke up. He was corny and he decided to go sell the tape to 50 Cent so that 50 Cent could get back at Rick Ross. So just some lame, corny nigga shit. She's a victim of revenge porn, so it was crazy to me how all of these grown women, 40 plus, married with kids, would have the nerve to judge her about something like that. Like, grow up. You should understand how that could happen to somebody, especially in their younger years when they're not as wise or mature. Now, did it throw me off that Stoney said that she left Rick Ross 20 years ago and he was still paying all her bills, and she lives in a house that he owns and she feels like she's in a luxury prison, even though she won a lawsuit against 50 Cent and got some money that she should have been able to flip and got her own house? Yes, I was side-eyeing her a little bit, but was it enough for me to judge her or feel like the other lady should be judging her? No, at the end of the day, again, she was younger and more immature when she got that lawsuit, and maybe she did blow through the money, or clearly she opened her boutique, even though her boutique is struggling. She didn't think as much with her priorities. She should have got a house. She should have got her own house in her own name. But instead, she tried to get a boutique and a business that she wanted to, take off. And unfortunately, she's struggling with that. Have some grace. Give her some empathy. Give her some understanding. Rel was judging her for that and was like, oh, you should never be dependent on a man, especially at your age, and you won a lawsuit bigger than all of us, and we've all figured it out, and you still dependent on that man, your baby daddy that you're not even with. Like, I'm not fucking with you. Like, that's that deep for you to be not fucking with her over? Like, girl, chill out. It's her life. It has no effect on you. Why can't you be cool with her because of that? Why can't you try to give her advice and help her instead of being so judgmental about it? So I said Sherelle has a lot of nerve to be classifying Stoney as a hood rat. You have 3 kids of your own. Chad has 7 kids of his own with however many baby moms. And then y'all have a kid together now. So y'all have 11 kids in total. And I said, Sherelle give me thirsty vibes. She said that she been wanting Chad since she was in high school. He was her high school crush. She used to wear his jersey. And she reached out to him and slid in his DMs. And she said her initial thought was just to hit it and quit it. So you just wanted to hit and quit Chad and fulfill your little celebrity fantasy one night stand. But you've judging Stoney. But you wanted to do a one night stand, basically. Like, girl, what? How does that work? We did see later in the season that her and Chad's relationship is not all peaches and cream. They are having trouble getting to the point of marriage because they are bumping heads as far as their prenup agreement goes. And from that conversation, I was just able to tell that she is very scared of being codependent or dependent on a man and losing her independence, having a man be the breadwinner, and she's just sitting in the house because she's learned that from her past, as have I, and I would never be in that situation again either. Like, once you go through something like that, you are going to be like, yeah, I'm not dependent on no nigga for nothing, because you can't trust men. You don't know how things going to change, so you got to be careful and you got to always look out for yourself. And once you learn that, you're not going to let yourself fall into that again. So I understand why she is afraid of that with Chad, especially because he don't have the best track record and he's not really known for being with women for a long amount of time. He's with a woman for a couple of years, might have a kid with her, moves on to the next. Now, one thing that I did say I did want to give Sherelle credit for was that I did feel like she really looked out for and was protective of the girls who were her agents. So MJ, Ashley, and Portia. So we'll get back to Sherelle and Stoney. Now we about to talk about Miranda real quick, and then we're going to talk about Jules and the altercation that took place on episode 3. So Miranda was one of my faves. She's the youngest girl on the show. She's clearly there to pull in the younger audience. She's dating Kodak Black, who is a rapper. She's 22. He's 28. They have 2 kids, I believe. And she said she met him at a high school performance. So that sounded very weird. Like she was 16 or 17 in high school, which means that he would have been 22 or 23 coming to the school performing. So how did y'all start dating? She tried to say he waited until I was of age. But it's like, girl, please. It's grooming either way. Miranda is a really pretty girl, but she's out here letting Kodak serially cheat on her. She's getting into fights with his other baby moms and getting arrested, like stuff that she should not be having to go through. Now, as we got to know a little bit more about Miranda, it did start to become clear why she would accept certain stuff like this and be with somebody like Kodak, because of her childhood and her past. Her mom was like a madam and her dad sold drugs. You know, it was that kind of lifestyle. And her mom, when she told her mom about it, instead of her mom just saying, you need to leave him because he's cheating on you, her mom was kind of like, well, you know what you're going to deal with. Like, you'll know what's enough for you. Like, that's not really good advice as a mom. Miranda is one of Sherelle's real estate agents, but she also wants to rap. You know, she's working on that on the side. And I said, well, does she have songs with Kodak? Is Kodak in the studio with her? Is Kodak promoting her music on social media? Because I never heard about her until this show. Now, unlike Ashley and Portia, I don't feel like Miranda is a full minion to Sherelle, even though she works for her. She wasn't afraid to call Sherelle out for being a mean girl. Like around the middle of the season, they had this dinner and, you know, she told Sherelle, you're a mean girl. And she was also one of the only girls who was cool with Stoney throughout the whole season and not really judging her and going along with the pack that Sherelle was leading. Miranda said that Stoney was her friend's mom. So I'm assuming that Miranda is friends with Rick Ross's and Stoney's daughter, who's in her 20s. So that's how she knows Stoney. But obviously her and Stoney also have the connection because they've both dated rappers, Rick Ross and Kodak Black. So with them being on this show together, they've gotten to know each other more and became friends. So that's pretty much it for MJ, aka Miranda. Like I said, I like her and she's definitely one of my faves. Okay, so now we have Jules. Jules is the ex-fiance of someone named Duke Riley, and Jules was also the marketing manager for Yeezy, working under Kanye West. Apparently, Kanye had publicly fired Jules, but she believed that somebody named Milo was really behind it. She was waiting for her last paycheck from Yeezy, which she eventually got later in the season, but it was just a whole mess going on between her and them. And she was considering suing Kanye and Yeezy, but luckily she got her check. She was another one who was really nice to Stoney and befriended her and didn't judge her along with the other women. She even called them out and was like, have you guys never filmed yourself with your guy? And they were like, yeah, like I have, but I use my phone. Like they was making a bunch of excuses and Jules was like, but at the end of the day, you've been on camera with a man that you were intimate with and you don't know what could have happened with that footage. So would you want people to judge you if you were in her shoes? Like we're grown women and we shouldn't be judging her for that, especially when we know the whole story. So my first impression of Jules was good. She was giving me girl's girl. I was liking her. So that's like the first 2 episodes. So now we're going to get into episode 3, which is when Jules moved into the middle tier. And I wasn't really sure how I was going to feel about her going forward. So I said episode 3 had a few extra faces at this party that they had. And one of those extra faces was a lady named Kiana. So Kiana was sitting at a table with Miranda and I believe Stoney. And Kiana just had a lot of negative stuff to say about Jules. She was saying how she's heard Jules saying negative stuff about black people. And she's heard that Jules is a culture vulture and a Karen. But at the time, Kiana wasn't really able to pinpoint what Jules had said or done. So that was throwing me off. I was like, is she just nitpicking or what? Eventually, it came out that Jules posted a picture of a shirt that said niggas lie a lot. And she said, can I wear this to the festival? And people were like, girl, if you have to ask, you know you can't wear it. You're white. So why would you be able to wear a shirt that says niggas? Now overall, I did say that I felt like Kiana came off like she was irrelevant, nitpicking and looking for a moment. She wasn't a person who was a cast member on the show, and this was literally her only appearance on the season. So you came to bring some drama, and you came to get used by the production team so that they could have an altercation for the season. That's pretty much it. So MJ was calling Jules over to the table, and when Jules went over there, her and the Kiana girl started getting into it. Jules tried to speak to her. She was ignoring Jules, being rude, and then she came out of nowhere because Jules was like, girl, do you have a problem with me? Like, I'm saying hi to you, you ignoring me, like, you giving me this standoffish energy, and I don't even know you. And she was like, yeah, well, I've heard you're a culture vulture, and this, that, and the third. So Jules was caught off guard, like, girl, I don't even know you. Why are you coming at me like this? Jules was like, I don't really feel like I need to explain myself to you because she don't know her. And you're not giving her a chance. You just judging her without meeting her. You already got this stink attitude. So Jules and the girl Kiana end up getting into a physical altercation. It gets broken up, and now all of the women are looking at Jules crazy because they're like, oh, you're getting into fights, and we're all black women, and that reflects badly on us because we hang out with you, and you're going to still get a pass for it because you're a white girl, but it's going to, make us look ghetto. Ashley and Sherelle was saying that Jules was the aggressor, which in my opinion was untrue. The lady was very aggressive before Jules even got to the table. And it started to feel like they all felt like because Jules was white, anytime a black woman confronts her about something, she's supposed to like let it slide and have respect because she hangs out with black women so that she doesn't look like a culture vulture. So she's just supposed to get disrespected by anybody black because because she's white. Like, no, stop. Now, it's one thing if you saw the stuff about her online, it's your first time meeting her when she came over to the table and she spoke to you and greeted you nicely. You should have said, hey, my name is Kiana. I've heard some things about you. I do want to talk to you and get to know you myself, but I do also want to ask some questions because I'm a black woman and some of the stuff that I've heard has offended me or made me. Jules would have probably been more open to that and been like, okay, like, ask me what you got to ask me. And she would have been able to explain herself. But you didn't even want to say hello when the girl came over, like just being flat out rude. Then it came out that Sherelle was judging Jules about the fight, but Sherelle had also did some funny shit right before Jules got into the fight. Before Jules walked over to the table with MJ and Kiana, she was at the table with Sherelle and the other ladies, and Sherelle gonna ask Jules, does she want more kids? And Jules kind of looked at Sherelle like, why are you asking me that? And she was like, if God wants me to have more kids, I'll have more kids. Little did we know as the viewers, Jules had just spoke to Sherelle about the fact that she had an ABORTION that day, and Sherelle knew about it and going to ask her in front of everybody, do you want more kids? Being insensitive and nice nasty. And they also touched on the abortion laws in Florida and how that affected Jules' situation. She really didn't have a lot of time to make her decision because the legal cutoff in Florida is 6 weeks. So she had literally just found out and had less than a few days to make her decision. And her child's father were already going through things. They're not together as is, and they're struggling to co-parent with the one child that they have. So she just didn't feel like it was the best decision. So everybody's judging Jules and kind of isolating her after she has the physical altercation with the girl Kiana and saying how, we can't be around her. She's putting her hands on other black women and she already has this reputation that follows her. We can't have people thinking that we're friends with this colorist or culture vulture or whatever they're trying to pin Jules down as. So on episode 7, we see Jules have this influencer event, and she doesn't really have anybody there from the show except for Sade. When her and Sade go on the side to talk, Jules was basically like, I'll still come around and do events with you guys if somebody I like invites me, but Sherelle can't even get a hi out of me. Like, I'm not even doing hi and bye. I'm not cordial with Sherelle, period. She says she liked Sade, she liked Keita, she liked Miranda, she liked Alexis, and she liked Portia. And she liked Stoney too, I believe, but she probably just wasn't counting Stoney as a part of the group because Stoney is really not a part of the group. Like, she ain't in the circle, basketball wives language. So on episode 8, Keita had an event. Episode 8 is the last episode. And Jules comes to the event with the boxer Ryan Garcia. And this is when Jules lost me completely and got chopped. All of the ladies were appalled because they said that Ryan Garcia is racist. I did look up his name and racist, and a bunch of articles came up about him being expelled from the boxing league because he made racist remarks. So it is true. And it's like, girl, if they accusing you of being a culture vulture, why would you think that it was a good idea to bring him? She said she wanted to bring some of her own friends so she could feel more comfortable because none of the girls really like her, but that wasn't the right friend for you to bring. So Jules is a fucking chop. See, I was trying not to judge you and trying to be nice because I thought they was all bullying you, but you done pissed me off right at the end of the season. Okay, so now back to Sherelle and Stoney, because like I said, majority of the show revolves around those two and their tension. So remember I told you Sherelle was being very judgmental towards Stoney about the whole revenge corn situation. I wasn't feeling it. So by episode 4, Stoney started fighting back. She sat down with Jules and she started clocking Sherelle's tea, basically saying that she found out that Sherelle and Chad's first date was by the strip motels by the airport, Okeechobee or something, basically trying to insinuate that Sherelle was given escort, was given sleep with you in the motel and send you on your way. And Stoney was saying she worried about me, quote unquote, being a hoe from 20 years ago and having my tape get leaked, but she's still with this guy and she supposedly met him and had their first date at a motel. So again, if that's true, it's like, Sherelle, how do you have the nerve to judge Stoney? Stoney also went on to claim that Chad had slid into her DMs before, but she would never talk to him because he embarrasses every woman that he dates. Stoney also went on to tell Jules that Chad is still cheating on Sherelle, he's still outside, and apparently Sherelle had made a group chat with 8 other women that Chad was sleeping with to confront all of them about it. But after all of that, on episode 5, Sherelle decides to be nice a little bit and invite Stoney to her real estate event because she said she felt like she was being too hard on Stoney, who's really a black woman, when all of her energy should have really been towards Jules. So around this point in the season, Sherelle decided to change her enemy, or the person that she was going to bully and have an issue with, from being Stoney to being Jules, because Jules got into that fight. So I was just saying, like, Stoney, you kind of giving me pussy because you just popped all that shit to Jules on episode 4, but then you went to Sherelle's event on episode 5 and was smiling in her face and thanking her for inviting you to the event. Like, no, you need to clock her tea in person. Now, I will give Stoney a little bit of grace and empathy because I did find out that her mom, I believe, passed away during the filming of the show towards the end of the season. And like I said, Sherelle is a producer on the show. They clearly edited all of that out. There was no mention of Stoney's mom passing away. So I could see how her getting tired of dealing with this drama and Sherelle judging her from the beginning. So I'm gonna lash out on you. You know what I mean? Now, that doesn't excuse the fact that Stoney was being a little bit pussy and not really saying the shit to Sherelle's face until towards the end of the season. But it does make me understand why she was just talking shit about Sherelle to everybody after that point, because she was just sick of Sherelle and going through her own shit. But like I said, episode 5, Sherelle apologizes to Stoney, invites her to the real estate event, and it seems like she's trying to move forward with Stoney from that point, even though she does still throw her little shady, jabs at her in conversation and definitely in the confessionals. Now, let's get into Sherelle and Chad with this whole prenuptial agreement situation. So they sit down with their lawyers, and Sherelle was honestly getting on my nerves because I'm like, girl, you just said you never want to depend on a man. You never want to need a man for money. And you was judging Stoney because she's still getting her bills paid by her baby father. But Sherelle wanted to ask Chad for $3 million a year in alimony if they get a divorce, $500K per penalty if he gets caught cheating during the marriage, and she wanted a percentage of his podcast that he said she doesn't have anything to do with. So Chad's lawyer was like, $3 million a year is outrageous. I'm thinking more $15,000 a month, which would be like $180,000 a year. He was like, that would feel more appropriate for him to give you as alimony. And Chad was like, I honestly don't feel like Sherelle is ready to get married after this conversation. So they put a pause on the wedding and said that they just going to take their time to make sure that everything is ironed out and that they both happy with the financial agreement. So originally they planned to get married on February 2nd, 2025, because Chad's football number was 85, which is why he's called Chad Ochocinco. So she wanted it to be like 22225, because February is the second month and then it's February 2nd, 2025. So it'll be like, 4 2s, which adds up to 8, and then the 5. So it was a cute little date, but they pushed it back. So now that date is gone. So episode 7, Stoney has this event at her boutique and a lot of the women come. Sherelle came to the event with her messy designer friend and they were shading Stoney. And then lastly, on episode 8, Stoney came to Sherelle's event being messy and started telling MJ basically the same stuff that she was telling Jules a few episodes ago. That she heard Chad and Sherelle are in an arrangement. They have an open relationship. It's for PR. It's not real. So MJ was uncomfortable and she was like, listen, Stoney, you're my friend, but Sherelle is my boss. And like, I'm getting tired of being put in the middle of y'all drama. So I'm going to just go get Sherelle and y'all need to go ahead and hash this out once and for all. Like, leave me out of it. Mind you, I peeped that Eliza Reign was at Sherelle's party in episode 8. So I'm just looking like, girl, Sherelle, how you judging Stoney, but you clearly cool with or friends with somebody like Eliza Reign and have them at your party? Eliza Reign and Stoney ain't much different. And Eliza Reign is probably worse than Stoney and would be considered more of a hoe. But MJ went and got Sherelle. Sherelle and Stoney went and sat down on the side. And the episode or the season basically ended with Stoney confronting Sherelle about these rumors in the streets about her and Chad's relationship. Telling Sherelle that she hears that Chad is still outside. They have an open relationship. Chad is having threesomes with other parties. Sherelle was like, girl, what's your point? Like, if you hearing that, that's what they saying on the blogs. Why you telling me about it? What's your point for real? Stoney really didn't have nothing to say. She was like, I just want to make sure the people I'm hanging around are solid. Like, girl, you don't have nothing to say. It made you look stupid. It made you look a mess. But overall, I guess she was just trying to make it clear to Sherelle that, listen, we're not that different. I came onto this show and you were trying to judge me for my hoish past, but you got a hoish past too, and you might have a hoish present. So the season basically ended there. Like I said, it was a flat ending. It didn't end on like this crazy cliffhanger or anything. We just know that there's still tension between Sherelle and Stoney. So if they get a season 2, that's where we will be continuing from. Like I said, it was a 6 out of 10. If it is a season 2, I would review the whole season like I did this one. It's definitely not a week by week show or episode by episode show. But if y'all want to check it out, if y'all like Basketball Wives and Love and Hip Hop, I would recommend it. Okay, later.